first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the move. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis, go sis, go sis.
KBLA, Talk 1580, good morning and God bless. Happy Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. I'm Dominique DiPrima. The show is First Things First, and my first thing every day, giving thanks, giving praises, asking for blessings from the Most High, asking for the blessing of the ancestors and the elders, and getting it going, keeping it going, loving this microphone, loving up on you. 800-920-1580 if you want to share some love, how you're serving this weekend of service, day of service, what you're thinking, what you're seeing. We typically start with the left coast, go to the whole wide world and all the planets, and then we end up with a deep, deep dive with a person or persons of interest. Today we're going to be focusing on, of course, Martin Luther King Jr., and we'll have Dr. James Lance Taylor joining us to make sure that we know more than what is on the Black History Month and MLK Day posters, that we can go a little bit deeper into the important contributions of Dr. King and his cohort. Almost always, not always, there's no always around here. That's how you know this is a black thing. You're going to get some improvisation, you're going to get some riffing, you're going to have variation on a theme, but I often have a partner in politics to help unpack what's going on here locally, and today is no exception. Joining me is the founder and CEO of Second Call, which is a violence reduction and reentry organization serving the greater LA area. He served as executive board member of the Southern California Ceasefire Committee, and he sits on several boards in LA County. Skipp Townsend, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. You know, a lot of people will call Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday a day of peace, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to speak to you this morning, because you've dedicated your life to making sure we have lots of days of peace. And I just don't want to lose focus on the work of the intervention, prevention, and community workers who help, keep the city happy and relatively safe.
Yes, indeed, Dominique. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that Bo Taylor also has a birthday coming up in a few days. So I always use Dr. King's parade and birthday as a day to remember Bo Taylor, too, because if not for him, you guys wouldn't even know me. I'd be a tow truck driver somewhere up and down the coast, getting cars out the flood right now. So, I'm always grateful for Bo doing his work prior to me.
And for those not familiar with Bo Taylor, it's funny you said that. I just felt chills, like just a lot of memories. Bo Taylor, of course, the founder of a group called Unity One, but more than that, was in the vanguard of making the urban peace movement, which had been around, in the community, making it cross over into the mainstream of Los Angeles life, where we know what an intervention worker is. We understand to a degree what the challenges are and how important it is to have community-based organizations. Part of that mix, people that know the neighborhoods, and of course he was part of the Summer of Success, which I was working for then council member Martin Ludlow. I was the director of that project, actually, on the ground. But without Bo Taylor, T. Rogers, and the community members, it would not have been possible. No way, no how.
Yeah, let me shout out Shell Dog too, because a lot of
Yes,
people
Shell
don't
Dog.
even
How do I
realize
forget
that
Shell Dog? Shell Dog.
it was actually his idea. Bo presented it to Martin Letlow, but Shell Dog said keep the parks open till 3, 4 in the morning. Of course, Martin said no, that's crazy. We'll keep them open till about 12. But that
It's
was Shell
funny.
Dog's idea.
It's funny, Skip. I hear so many different versions of the origins of Summer of Success now. Lots of different folks, want to take credit for it. I don't know whose idea it was. I know the data came out and showed that this is the time when the gang murders and crimes were happening, and so they matched it with the data. But I also know there's no way it happens without Shell Dog, because Shell was there on the ground every single day, making sure all the kids got home every single night, no matter how late we were there. I know that for sure, and I know that without Shell Dog that doesn't happen at all. So I'm glad you mentioned him. He's still doing the work.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
as
indeed.
are you.
Yeah. So Columbus, Ohio, Sacramento, Florida, even Sanford, Florida, they have a version of it. It's Cap City Night, Sac City Nights. I forgot what it's called in Florida, but there are lots of cities that have that. And of course, around the country, they'll never hear of Shell Dog, but he actually tried to convince Martin Letlow to keep the parks open till 3, 4 in the morning. So it was his idea.
All right. Well, like I said, I know Shell was there. I also know that Connie Rice did a comprehensive report on sort of a Marshall Plan for gangs. I know that then Councilmember Ludlow convened the ad hoc committee on gangs, which is something that had never happened in the city council. Without those two pieces in place, it doesn't happen. I know that Bob Ross, the California Endowment, paid for the whole thing, and without him, I know the LA Conservation Corps, they hired the young people in the community through their agency under the direction of Shell Dog. I know that the Community Coalition went door to door, letting people in the neighborhood know that it was happening, day in, day out. So there was a lot of people doing work. And anyway, point is that lays the foundation for what we now know as city violence prevention, whether it be GRID or whatever form that's taking, and intervention workers being included along with community-based organizations. Before that, it was just police. And I think we have a pretty good idea of how that went. Skip, I want to talk about where we are now with it, what works now. I want to talk about where we are now with police community relations, as the LAPD police chief tries to get his contract renewed. And I also want to talk about something almost no one is talking about, which is a drop in homicides in 2022. We saw this fear-mongering around the elections. It tends to continue for people's political agendas. I want to see how you see that and why we're not talking about the fact that murder went down in Los Angeles last year. We got that and more. Skipp Townsend is with us. Second Call is the organization. Rest in peace, Bo Taylor. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
At Cedars-Sinai, we're honored to be named the #1 hospital in California and the #2 hospital in the nation in U.S. News & World Report's Best Hospitals Honor Roll. We're also proud to be named #1 in 6 specialties in Los Angeles. Thank you to our physicians, nurses, academic leaders, and thousands of other team members who bring their best to Cedars-Sinai every day. Learn more about our top-ranked care at cedars-sinai.org.
Did you know Nissan EVs have traveled 8 billion miles? Just a quick trip to Pluto and back. And what did we learn along the way? Well, that an EV can take on the world, like the Nissan Leaf. It can move racing forward and take your breath away, like the all-new Nissan Ariya. We learned to make EVs that electrify. 8 billion miles driven by Leaf owners globally since 2010. Ariya not yet available for purchase. Expected availability late fall, subject to change.
Smooth skin begins with hydrating ingredients. Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion nourishes your skin with all-day hydration for deeply moisturized results that give you confidence like buttery soft shoulders like, and visibly smooth skin-like. Quench your skin with nourishing moisture from Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion. Try Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, too, and get skin your face will envy.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, you know, it's funny. Skipp Townsend, he's with Second Call. Well, why don't you say what Second Call is? I read from the bio, but it's your baby, so you can describe it better.
Well, Second Call, originally, just following the footsteps of Bo Taylor, wanted to stop the violence in the community. We just wanted to do gang violence. But as I was, intrigued with Father Greg Boyle as well, I said, well, I'll just get everybody a job. But I didn't understand that everybody wasn't ready. They still had anger issues. So what we did at Second Call is start talking about how to deal with anger, how to deal with emotions, how to deal with low self-esteem, how to deal with depression. And actually, we uncovered a lot of vicarious and unresolved trauma. So we became like a re-entry program where people come to us. Now they're looking for careers and opportunities, but we help them first deal with some of the challenges of just living day to day and, things that'll happen during the course of a day. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, and re-entry for people coming out of incarceration, but also re-entry for people who have been involved in a trauma-induced lifestyle of violence or, underground economy or whatever, that want to, mainstream their lives in some way, right?
I like the way you said that. You said underground economy. Right. That's a better term than what I would have said. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so, I mean, you guys do great work, and, of course, the intervention, prevention is part of that. I think that trauma-informed piece is super, super important, whether you're coming from a gang or community, background, or whether you're a CEO. Like, our behaviors, well, let me not go off into the curriculums, but, that conditioned behavior, childhood conditioning is real serious stuff, and a lot of us don't deal with it. And I feel like if you get to your 40s and 50s and you haven't dealt with that stuff, you're late. Like, it's one thing to be complaining and repeating patterns when you're in your 20s and 30s. When you get to your 40s and 50s, it's time to stop blaming your parents, blaming everybody else, and deal with what's going on inside of you. That's my view.
Well, a lot of people won't address it. It's not sexy to sit up and talk about some of the childhood trauma. It's easier to cover it up.
Right.
However, no matter if I move to Riverside, if I move anywhere else, that trauma's still there, and I'm taking it with me. And Dominique, I started using the example of having roaches. Some families have roaches, and they say, well, we'll move out of this house and go somewhere else. And 2-3 weeks later, they say the same amount of roaches. And it's because they brought them with them. It's the same if I have the childhood trauma and I take it with me in my relationship. I have children, I give the roaches to them, and everywhere I go, I'm saying, man, why are these roaches here? I'm bringing them. So I have to stop and clean up. That's why in the community we say, let's improve and not move. So many people move to Lancaster and Vegas and Victorville. Well, let's just clean up the community instead of moving out of the community.
Yeah, well, I'm big on that. I've been checked a few times by people who say, you can't ask people to walk away from their $1 million. Okay, but I still want y'all to stay. Let's circle our wagons. We have to have critical mass somewhere. That said, I was talking about the homicides, right? So for, the pandemic, I guess we could call it the pandemic, days, we saw in 2020 and 2021 a huge jump in homicides from where we had been, which were record lows, right? Low levels like the 1950s and 60s. I would say due to the work of gang intervention, prevention, working hand in hand with GRID, working hand in hand with law enforcement. That model that came out of the Summer of Success, which went on to be Summer Night Lights, which we were talking about. Bo Taylor was part of that, but really the everyday boots on the ground was Shell Dog. T. Rogers was part of it. Anyway, we were all enjoying that, whether we knew where it came from or not. Homicides jumped up. But they're down like about 6% apparently in 2021. That's still higher than it was before the pandemic, but it's a trend line that is good, right?
Right. So let me just clear something up real quick, because as you talked about intervention working with GRID or law enforcement, a lot of people don't understand when you say that the community works with law enforcement. They think that, community members, and there's a guy who has an organization, and people are saying, oh, he gets a phone from the police. He has to respond and tell the police what crimes happened, and so
wrong.
And they didn't say it about me, but they said it about the big guy over on Slauson, right? So I just want to clear things up that we don't get a phone from a sergeant from the police department. We don't respond and tell the police this is where the crime is or whatever. But what we do is exactly what you saw happen, and you document it. For the Summer of Success, we talk to the community, we deal with the community, get them going in the right direction, whether it's helping them get enrolled in school, helping them get their CDLs. A lot of people nowadays are driving these big trucks, and we want to give them an opportunity to do something other than going in the community and grabbing a gun and retaliating. So yes, the crime rate and the homicide rate is down. However, a lot of times we don't get credit for it. They'll say, well, based on the deployment of law enforcement, the overtime of the detectives, and I'm not just talking about LAPD, I'm talking about the sheriff and Inglewood. Everybody will take credit.
I mean, I was going there, Skipp. I was going there. Because it says it right in the LA Times article, and I don't know why the LA Times feels that, or any press feels that they should just ask the police department why crime is down, because all they're going to say is it's because of our great work. And I'm not saying they don't play a role in it, but I think we know what the violence was like in LA when it was just only suppression, law enforcement, and politicians, and no community involvement, and it was terrible. Yes,
it was terrible for the community and terrible for law enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely. LA Times says police officials have attributed the turnaround in part to improved community involvement and closer cooperation. Okay, but also with other law enforcement agencies. Closer cooperation with other law enforcement agencies. No mention of intervention, no mention of community self-determination. And to me, that's just not accurate and also not objective. Like, you don't ask, criminals why crime is up. You go to some study from UCLA or whatever. So I just don't think that's an accurate way to get a gauge on it. That said, I mean, is it a one-off? Do you think it's a one-off, or do you think, what do you attribute it to?
Okay, so let me just share that in February of last year, I got guys from the Slauson and Crenshaw area to sit down with guys from the Manchester and Crenshaw area. So there was a lot of help with that. There was guys on both sides who helped me to get that engagement going, and they continued it on their own without my intervention. So because of that, there was a war that went on for 50 years, and what people don't know is that war is, I don't want to say it's over. They don't like each other, but they're not killing each other right now. So, that's what I attribute to. So I want to give a shout out to a guy named Munchie B, a guy named Little AD, Bandit, Ron. These are the type of names and people who sat down at a table and said, okay, let's try it. Let's try not to kill each other. Let's see how that goes. And people, of course, wrote on the walls. Some people went on Instagram, and we had to, squash it. It takes maintenance, but that's what law enforcement can't do. Even on the east side, there was a war that went on for 23 years, and there was a guy, Lil Dot, who walked from neighborhood to neighborhood and made sure that we brought them to the table and squashed the beef. Those are the things that law enforcement can't do, and those are the things that we don't get out there in the public. People are not talking about it. You know, people underground, as you said, the underground economics, they talk about it, but mainstream media, mainstream, the people who are living in these homes, they need to know that there is something going on where there have been so many. There's a chicken eating contest, Dominique, where two guys off Imperial in the city of Inglewood, one side is Crips, one side is Blood. They talked for about 2 or 3 times and said, okay, the final thing we're going to do is get 50 pieces of chicken. Which one of you big dudes can eat 26 pieces? Whoever does is the winner. And that was the competition. And we laughed, we joked, we took pictures, but they are not at war anymore. And they were at war since 1972, 73. So these are things that people don't know. They don't understand. And that's the work of intervention. That's the true work of intervention. A lot of people see, intervention going to the schools, checking up on kids, getting them a bicycle, getting their family a turkey, but it's deeper than that. And I learned that from Bo Taylor. When he was around, he went to Jerry's Deli, and he would just spend about $200 on chicken and pizza or whatever it was, and let everybody eat. And I said, Bo, what's the agenda? He said, that is the agenda. Look at them talking. And they would, amongst themselves, just be talking with each other.
Yeah,
So
I mean, one of the things that made the Summer of Success work was that too. People ate. People, anyone who came up to the park, get you a plate.
Exactly.
When people aren't starving, they're a lot less likely to fight. I know I am. I'm a lot more friendly when I'm full. Okay, we got about a minute and a half till news, traffic, and sports. We'll continue on the other side. But I think that, what we're talking about in terms of definitions of peace and definitions of roles in that peace are super, super important. I know a lot of this stuff because I would just happen to be there. I remember trying to get law enforcement to meet with, Unity One, the guys from Unity One and some of the other intervention organizations way back in the 90s. And they scoffed at me. There's no way we're meeting with those guys. Those guys are gang members now. So I say that to say I think anyone who feels that intervention workers are informants or an arm of law enforcement hasn't been out in the streets when the work is getting done. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and isn't privy to the history either, and how it wasn't not easy. It was a struggle to get that acceptance of the work that y'all do. And I think it's still a struggle because honestly, I feel like intervention workers should be unionized, should have health care, pensions, and all the rest of it. Y'all put your lives on the line so that we can be safer every day in this city. And so, hey, I hate when people say if Dr. King were here, he'd this and that and the other, because we don't know. But we know that he stood with workers, living wages, and benefits for all workers. So I'm pretty sure he would co-sign what I just said. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
Reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
MLK observances are taking place all across the nation. Of course, we'll get you caught up to speed all throughout the day. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Moore, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Georgia, President Biden honors the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. With more on that story, here's Trey Thomas.
Speaking from the pulpit at Ebenezer Baptist Church on what would have been the slain civil rights leader's 94th birthday, Biden urged Americans to follow in Dr. King's footsteps.
We can do our best to seek a life of light and hope and love and, yes, truth.
Biden called King a nonviolent warrior for justice. Monday is the Martin Luther King Jr. federal holiday. I'm Trey Thomas.
And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Save big store-wide at the Truckload event at Lowe's, happening now. For a limited time, get up to 50% off select tools and accessories. Shop the event in-store or online today. Valid 12/29 through 1/25 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A special milestone for LeBron James. He joins Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the only two players in NBA history to reach 38,000 points. LeBron is at 38,024 after dropping 35 in the Lakers' loss to the Sixers. He needs 364 to pass Kareem for the NBA's all-time scoring record. The Clippers got 31 points from Terrence Mann and 30 from Kawhi Leonard to beat Houston by 21. USC's women's basketball team upset the nation's number 2 team. They beat Stanford by 9. First win for USC over Stanford since 2014. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to your settlement, we're a slam dunk. Call 833-MVP-WINS or check their website at themvp.com for a free case review.
When you're the victim of a car accident, hiring the right law firm can be the difference between a rewarding settlement and striking out. Call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys at 833-MVP-WINS for your free consultation.
Call me your MVP.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with Kate Luzio, former banking executive and now owner of Luminary, who partnered with Chase for this tour. She makes it her business to build community for business owners.
Yeah, so I was a banker for 20 years before I decided to become an entrepreneur. 7 of those years were actually at JP Morgan Chase. One of the biggest things that I had going into my entrepreneurial journey was a big background in banking.
So what advice are you giving business owners looking for financial backing today?
So Chase brings in so much knowledge and the opportunity to understand what financial tools are out there for business owners to build, grow, and scale their business. A lot of business owners will say, well, I need to get a loan immediately. Well, you wouldn't just lend money to your friend if you didn't know why they needed it. I tell every business owner, you need a business plan, you need financial projections, you need a banker. Because you have to start building a relationship with a banker so that they get comfortable with how you're going to build that business and so that they can eventually support you in different ways.
Makes sense. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
Danny Morrison from the Danny Morrison Show. We're talking to Sona Agrawal, medical officer with the California Department of Public Health. Talk to me about these COVID-19 treatments. I heard there's antiviral treatments and more. Talk to us about those.
So antiviral treatments target specific parts of the virus to stop it from multiplying in your body and stop it from infecting more of your cells. These medicines prevent the severe illness that we've been talking about, also prevent hospitalization and death, and they might actually get you to test negative sooner. There's also evidence that they may lower the risk of long COVID symptoms. So there's lots of great reasons to take the medication. The at-home pill medicines are called Paxlovid and Molnupiravir. We actually have a hotline, 833-422-4255, or you can go to the website, covid19.ca.gov/treatment, and that's COVID-19 with the number 19.
Thank you so much in your efforts to keep us COVID-free all throughout the holidays. Have a blessed one, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, indeed. We're talking with Skipp Townsend. He's the founder and CEO of Second Call. And we're talking about, just this day, Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, is a day of peace. By the way, do you happen to know? I don't know. Let's crowdsource this. If you know, call me 800-920-1580. Is the parade rain or shine? I know that in the past, when it was just sprinkling, we've had the parade. But I don't know, we are in full on storm mode right now in LA. And today's supposed to be one of the stronger storm days. Today and Wednesday, we're supposed to have a dry day tomorrow. Do you know if the parade goes on either way?
I think the parade is going on. At least ceasefire, the Southern California Ceasefire Committee there gathering up today. I'm going to be in the van, dropping them off at the cars and to the float. And so we have a plan to meeting at 8 o'clock, 8:30 at the latest.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I do see the, traffic cops out there, and I see the barricades as I'm driving along King. But, okay. Well, I don't know. If my kids march in the parade, I'm keeping them home. It's a little too wet for me. But that's the LA attitude. I understand that. Let's talk a little bit about, well, first of all, back to what we were saying about the way that gang intervention, prevention interacts with police. Because there is, you do work together, but what does that mean exactly? I know, like, rumor control is a piece of it. I know communication with communities, with each other, but also with city officials, not just law enforcement, but people within the mayor's office and council offices. So how would you describe that partnership or that interaction?
Yeah, so it's like a triangle, as we call it, in intervention. As the triangles, both sides want the top. So LAPD wants to get to the top, which is less homicides, less shooting, and we're on the other side of that triangle, and that's what we want. So at the bottom of the triangle is going to be the mayor's office. It's going to be the schools. It's going to be the hospitals. It's going to be the community stakeholders. And these are like our buffers, or, these are the things we go through the mayor's office to talk to law enforcement. We want to know what happened. We want to know what is the side of the story that law enforcement is saying, because the community will say, hey, it's a red car, drove up, shot everybody. Where law enforcement will say, we have footage. It wasn't a red car. They might know it was a green truck. They don't want to tell us it was green. They don't want to tell us what type of truck, but they'll say, hey, look, it was a green SUV. We're not looking for a red car. And those are the type of things we need to do rumor control. So a lot of times what happens is we're waiting on information from law enforcement, whereas people in the community think we're giving information to law enforcement, and that's just not the case. We don't, I don't even want to tell the rumor that it was a red car. I don't want to tell law enforcement that. I want to just sit and wait. So what we do a lot of times is just we listen with the intent to understand, so that we can use whatever information is necessary to stop the crowd, to stop them from going back. Also, when we get to the hospital, when one shooting happens, let's just say on Vernon and Crenshaw, if another shooting happens on, say, King and Crenshaw, they're going probably to the same hospital. So what we need to do is we need to deploy interventionists to the hospital to work with both communities, so that they're not, or even today, King Day Parade, this used to always be the day that two certain groups would always fight. And if possible, they would bring in the third community, and it was a day that always happened like that. So that's what intervention does, is allows the King Day Parade to continue to go without argument and fight.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm a good person to talk to about it, because I've witnessed it time and time and time again. The LAPD has started off the year killing 3 people. Sheriffs have killed 1 that I know of. And there was an action in Venice, Black Lives Matter, on Saturday evening, a prayer vigil. There was a Muslim prayer and Christian prayers and Yoruba prayers, and there was a rabbi, and everybody, but everyone was protesting. There were flowers, there were candles. By protesting, they didn't call it a protest, it was a vigil, but folks came with signs, they came with flowers, they came with candles, and they also came with signs. And I was there. It was packed. It was packed in the rain. And to me, that's an indication that, even though we're not marching like we were in 2020, people are just fed up with it. This man was 31 years old. He was tased repeatedly, and he later died. So I've talked with some folks who say, oh, no, he didn't die of the tasing. Okay, they tased him 6 times. They tased him for long periods of time. I think this is a very problematic situation, as are the killings of Takar Smith and Oscar Leon, who are both having mental health crises. How do we, when you talk about peace on the streets, when you talk about the role of LAPD, how do you start off the year like that and expect to move forward without some pretty significant change?
It's funny because, I don't know how it happens, but I can't curse, but stuff rises to the top. So when things happen, the officers in Venice, obviously Pacific Division, made the arrest. It was a violent arrest. They tased him 6 times. But however, it rolls up to Chief Moore. And even as a father, that's what happens when my children in the street and they hop a fence or they leave school. It rises to the parenting, and I think for me, Chief Moore has probably been the best in the community, better than Beck, better than Bratton, and those before him. However, it has to do with training. If there is not a consistent amount of training, then these officers will continue to do what they do. They look at our community members. It's hard for them to see a teacher.
You know what? I gotta challenge that, Skip. I feel like the same training yields different results. Their training works perfectly fine when they go to Bel Air.
Right.
To me, it's about accountability and racism, white supremacy. I'm sorry. I know, because every time the PD says they need training, then they get more money, and then they go keep doing the same crap. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the training has to involve us. The training has to involve the community. So they can't continue to train themselves. They have to involve community portions of their training. So when I say more training, I'm not talking about the same old thing. Right. I'm talking about they actually need community involvement type training, and not by some masters of social work or some PhD. They need the training of those individuals from the community. I mean, the Shell Dog, the Skipp Townsend, the Taco Twin. They need Unity 2, Chapter 2. They need Second Call. Those are the trainers that they need on how to interact. Because what happens is, let me just give you a scenario. The scenario is a mother has 2 children, and she buys the same clothes for them, so they look alike. They walk on the same streets, but one of them is not into the community violence or the community foolishness. But law enforcement won't know the difference. They look alike to them. So this teacher, this young man, 31-year-old man who's good for the community, they see him as they see everybody else.
Yeah.
How do we stop?
Yeah, and I don't know, we should do another show about this. Because for me, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how does a Bo Taylor or a Shell Dog or, Twin, how do they train racism and white supremacy out of a person? How do they do that? How do they make the same training yield the same results in every neighborhood? How do they stop the adultification of our young black women and the stereotyping of our young black men and regardless whether Keenan Anderson, we don't know, was having a mental health crisis. We know for sure Takar Smith was. We know for sure Oscar Leon was. That's a problem, but it shouldn't be, the basis for an execution.
So let me ask you this: how is there a Shell Dog, a Bo Taylor, able to get these guys on the community level to stop shooting at each other, to stop looking at each other as opposition or as an enemy? So the work that's done on ground level needs to also be implemented into the jails, not just with the inmates, but with the sheriff.
Yeah,
they need
especially
to be implemented
with the sheriff.
Each division of LAPD, they have to get that implementation as well. The same things as Second Call. How is me and Big John, Big John got so many electricians out here. How are we able to get these guys to put the guns down and pick up a tape measure, pick up a pen? Because to be an electrician, you got to do algebra. Yeah. So how are we getting iron workers, the electricians, the same method that we're using for the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians, is the same method we have to use at law enforcement. So it's not a one-fits-all for everybody, but we have to start breaking down childhood trauma. We have to start breaking down what were you taught by your parents? What do you remember hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting? Because a lot of these people who are law enforcement, lived in the families where they were taught not to deal with these people, not to deal with certain groups and ethnicities. We have to really go back and tell the truth about what were we taught at home.
Talking with Skipp Townsend. And you, by the way, if you want to join the conversation, if you got question, commentary, love to hear from you. 800-920-1580. It's KBLA Talk 1580, where we're amplifying black and progressive voices around the clock.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Officials and advocates across California are pouring resources into pointing out that racism and racial intolerance impact public health. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. The CDC director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, called racism a public health danger. In the last 2 years, the cities of Coachella, Goleta, Long Beach, and Los Angeles, and counties such as Monterey, Riverside, Sacramento, San Diego, and Santa Barbara passed resolutions categorizing racism as public health distress. A 2021 report called Stop the Hate, focused on hate crimes in LA County, reported Black Californians are still most impacted by hate crimes, which are significantly underreported to law enforcement, adding that they violate human rights as defined by 177 nations around the world, according to the UN Universal Declaration on Human Rights. What are your thoughts on these stats? Let us know on all socials at KBLA 1580.
Central Neighborhood Health Foundation is a full-service network of federally qualified health care centers that serves local communities throughout Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. CNHF clinics provide low-cost to no-cost, compassionate, comprehensive, quality health care, which includes primary care services for chronic disease and diabetes management, pediatric and women's services, preventive care, vision and dental screenings, COVID-19 testing and vaccines, flu vaccines, behavioral health, HIV, and substance use services. Virtual telehealth visits are available from the comfort of your home with highly qualified physicians and medical professionals. CNHF also provides peer support specialist training and help with housing navigation. Central Neighborhood Health Foundation. Your wellness is our priority. Comprehensive care built on trust and respect. For more information, visit cnhfclinics.org or call 213-536-5815 today to locate a clinic near you.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You belong here. I'm glad you are here. 800-920-1580 is the number if you want to speak out here. And I want to let you know, by the way, there's a public Zoom meeting. It's the LA Police Commission tomorrow. It's at 6 p.m. You can go to lapd.zoom.us. If you want the meeting ID number and all that, you can go to Black Lives Matter LA. They have it there. They are calling on folks to make public comment. They are calling for Chief Moore not to be reappointed, pointing out that the LAPD has killed 3 people in the first week of this year, and that they are killing Black and Latino people with no accountability. And there's a list of other reasons why, but if you want to call in for public comment, that is going on tomorrow. There's also a list of demands concerning the killing by LAPD of Keenan Anderson, and you can go, and that's actually listed at tinyurl.com. No to more, no the number 2, and then more. That is a petition if you want to remove the police chief. They're also calling to pull the police out of traffic stops like they have done in Berkeley, restrict the use of tasers and so-called less lethal weaponry, to release the unedited version, edited footage of Keenan Anderson's killing and make that a matter of course, and also to end qualified immunity, which shields police from accountability. So all that is going on this week. If you're thinking of something you might want to be involved in the spirit of this day of peace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that to me felt right, to go to the protest, the vigil, candlelight vigil for Keenan Anderson on Saturday night, as a way of standing in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King. Skipp Townsend is with me. He's the founder and CEO of Second Call. And if people are interested, I mean, people do reach out to me all the time and say, hey, I want to be part of the solution when it comes to peace, when it comes to, spreading brotherhood, sisterhood in the community. How can they get involved with what you're doing?
Well, just this Tuesday, we're going to be at 5462 South Crenshaw Boulevard. So the Destination Crenshaw, which is directly behind the radio station, El Pollo Loco, that's a project that's going down Crenshaw. It's going to be, I guess, like a mile and a half, Sankofa Park, Pocket Parks. We're going to meet at 5462 and talk about how to get people into construction. How do we get people into the trade? We make the local hire numbers go up, but we have to have qualified people. Not saying qualified that you're already electrician, plumber, iron worker. We want to help people get involved in first being healthy. How can I be a healthy person? And then how can I be healthily, gainfully employed? So if anybody's interested, 5462 South Crenshaw, 5 o'clock on this Tuesday. I guess that's the 17th. That's tomorrow. So that's the best way. Or you could go on to www.secondcall.org. That's the number 2ndcall.org. And just look at our website. You'll get our numbers, our contact, secondcall.org.
Secondcall.org. Also, if you have an extra $1 million or $2 million that you wanted to donate to a worthy cause, I'm going to suggest Second Call, break them off a little something. I really feel like you're right in saying most Angelenos don't even understand the behind-the-scenes meetings and communications and campaigns that go on all of our behalf to make our city safer. So I just want to publicly say on this MLK Day, thank you, Skipp Townsend. Thank you, Second Call. Thank you to all of the intervention organizations that are doing that work, so that the rest of us can enjoy the city and we have the luxury of being ignorant about the machinations going on behind the scenes. Man, time flies when you're on the radio. When we come forward, Skipp Townsend, I'm going to pass the mic to you and let you tell us what you want to leave us with on this MLK Day, rainy, beautiful Los Angeles morning. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
We may be LA's newest talk station, but when you're punching above your weight, it's not about whether you can throw a punch. Can you take a punch? We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. And we don't black down.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 85% water, right?
85% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Ooh, pass me the intercom thing.
Attention shoppers. If you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Don't pay for water. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods.
Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Kick off the new year and celebrate women in business. This is Asha, and I am hosting a panel discussion with some of your favorite business owners and professionals. We are covering topics from work-life balance to our thoughts on the modern woman. Join us as we talk, dance, shop, and celebrate. Access passes are on Eventbrite under Project Red Women in Business Summit. Special thanks to our event sponsor, Sheldon Stokes State Farm in Carson, and visit our website, teamstokesinsurance.com.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, indeed. Happy MLK Day to you and to you. Skipp Townsend, founder of, he's also the CEO of Second Call. What do you want to leave us with this morning? What do you want us to be aware of or think about on this Martin Luther King Day, 2023?
Well, I think that from Martin Luther King Jr. fighting in the 1950s and 60s to where we are today, we have some of the similar and same struggles. How can that be when we're talking about well over 50 years has passed? So I want everybody to know that as much as we do the work in the streets and we work in the communities, that's just a part of it. But we also have to work on changing the environment, something we spoke about earlier, which is let's improve and not move. We have to work on them, not just the children, not just the conditions that we're in and the people that are in the conditions, but what is the perception that society has of us? Are we still a disposable people? Are we still those who, as the Americans would put it, those who society disregards? Are we still those people that, can't get a break? A lot of people tell me, hey, you guys have to stop being victims, stop crying. And that's not the case. Something you brought up just a second ago, systemic racism plays a major part. And what we have to do is to get involved in that and to tearing that down brick by brick, wall by wall. I don't think it starts with a person. I think it starts with a system.
Yeah. And a lot of times it seems less overwhelming to take on a system when you get involved in an organization, whether it's Second Call, whether it's Community Coalition, the Urban League, the NAACP, Black Lives Matter Grassroots, LA Community Action Network. I mean, just a group of people that have an agenda and a plan so that you don't have to be feeling like you're by yourself, so your individual efforts can multiply.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Well, we got 2 minutes left, Skipp. Let's talk to people about how they can get involved with that curriculum that you all teach to help address the trauma, whether they're police officers, because I know we have many that listen, or whether they are in them streets, or if you're just tripping and having a hard life for an undetermined reason.
Yeah, so a lot of people do not talk about, some of the challenges that they went through, and they carry them with them. Like I said earlier, they take them with them like, like pets, and it's not healthy. So a lot of people think to themselves, what is normal and what isn't normal, where I always say, I don't want to be normal, I want to be healthy, because lack of a father, lack of education, lack of whatever the lack of is, I don't want that. I want to be healthy and not just try to be normal and fit in. A lot of people fit in, it's covering up layers and layers and layers of trauma. So what I do want to leave the people is, let's uncover all that trauma. Let's address it. Let's acknowledge it, and let's heal from it, and let's move forward.
Yeah, it's a really good call to action for Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. What is left to do is, yes, we have to end white supremacy. We've got to be part of making sure we're not the ones that are left behind and disregarded, as you point out, Skipp Townsend, but also we have the opportunity to heal and rebuild ourselves and our families by addressing the trauma. And secondcall.org, you use the number 2, Second Call, for the website. Skipp Townsend, thank you so very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Dominique.
And thanks for all you do. News, traffic, and sports, and you know the deal. It's time to call me. It's time to talk about our country, and it's time to get our minds right with a Mind Right Monday, Mindfulness Monday with Sahara Ali. All that straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica,